Ravi's eyes opened slowly. At first everything looked blurred, like the world was covered in water. He felt a weight on his chest, heavy enough that he could hardly breathe. His head pounded, his throat was dry, and every breath sounded rough inside his helmet. He tried to move, but his body felt pinned. The lights above him flickered, sparking for a moment before going dim again. He thought maybe something had collapsed on top of him after the accident that shook the station. Then the shape above him came into focus. It was not a fallen beam or a piece of broken metal. It was alive, towering, massive, with broad shoulders that stretched wider than the doorway of the room. Its height was enormous, even though it was crouched over him. The creature's head tilted down, its glowing blue eyes staring into his face. Its skin shimmered like polished stone, silver with faint dark lines across it as if carved. 4 arms pressed against the ground, 2 of them close to his chest, holding him down but not crushing him. Its presence filled the small dormitory chamber, making the walls seem too close and the ceiling too low. Ravi's heart raced. His mind screamed danger, but his body refused to act. He had never seen anything like this being. Humanity had detected signals from far stars and even debris from unknown origins. But an actual living alien inside a human station was beyond belief. He struggled to push himself up, but the alien's grip was steady. It was not violent, but there was no way to break free. Fear tightened his chest. He wanted to shout, but his voice caught in his throat. At last he forced the words out. Who are you?" The alien did not answer. Instead, it lowered its head slightly, as if observing him more closely. Ravi noticed its eyes were not cruel. They glowed faint blue, steady, calm, and watchful. The creature's breath was slow and even, almost like the sound of wind through a tunnel. The silence pressed down harder than the alien's weight. Ravi's thoughts ran wild. Was it here to kill him? To capture him? Or was it some hallucination caused by lack of oxygen? A sharp spark from the broken light snapped him back to reality. The alien lifted one arm, releasing the pressure on his chest. It turned its head to scan the room. Slowly it rose to its full height. Now Ravi could see just how massive it was. 10 feet tall at least, with a body that looked both armored and alive. Each step it took made the floor groan. Ravi rolled onto his side, gasping for air. He looked around the room. The dormitory was wrecked. Pieces of ceiling panels lay scattered across the floor. Wires hung like vines, and smoke drifted from a shattered console. His bed was bent against the wall from the impact of whatever had shaken the station. The air smelled burnt, and he could feel the thinness of it when he tried to breathe deeply. The alien ignored him for a moment. It carried a crystal device in one of its hands. The object glowed faintly and emitted a soft hum. The creature touched the crystal to a wall panel. Suddenly, the lights above flickered brighter for a second before fading again. Ravi realized with shock that the alien was trying to restore power. The thought froze him. Why would an alien save power for a human station? He stayed low, watching, heart still hammering. The alien moved gracefully despite its size. It checked one panel, then another, tapping its crystal each time. Sometimes the systems flickered to life, sometimes they stayed dead. The creature seemed patient, careful, and focused. It was not acting like a hunter or a killer. Ravi's curiosity started to grow, pushing back his fear. He had always been a technician, someone who loved systems, circuits, and the way machines responded when repaired. The alien looked like it was doing the same thing, only with technology far more advanced. He swallowed, tried to steady his breathing, and then spoke again, slowly this time. "Can you understand me?" The alien paused, its head turned, glowing eyes fixing on him once more. For a long moment it stayed still, as if thinking. Then it raised one hand and tapped its chest twice with its fist. After that, it pointed up toward the ceiling. Ravi frowned. He did not understand. Was it pointing to the deck above? Or to the stars beyond the hull? He tried to rise to his knees. The alien did not stop him this time. "Ceiling," Ravi said aloud, pointing the same way. "Stars?" The alien tilted its head but gave no further sign of understanding. It went back to the broken panel, leaving Ravi both confused and unsettled. Ravi slowly tested his legs. They felt weak, but he managed to stand. He kept his distance, ready to run if the creature turned aggressive. But the alien did not chase him. It was focused fully on the systems of the room. The flicker of hope stirred in Ravi's chest. Maybe this alien was not here to harm him. Maybe it was here for something else. Yet fear still whispered in his mind. What if its help came at a price? What if it was fixing the station for its own purpose, not for him? He glanced at the door. The frame was bent, half-sealed shut. He would need tools to force it open. But leaving the room meant leaving the alien alone, and he did not know if that was wise. For now he stayed, standing in the dim light, watching the giant being work. The hum of its crystal filled the silence, steady like a heartbeat. Ravi realized that whatever this creature's motive was, it had chosen not to kill him when it had the chance. Instead, it had kept him alive. That thought left him stunned, more than the creature's size, more than its strength. Because in the middle of the wrecked station, trapped in a failing room, Ravi found himself facing not just a mystery of survival, but a question far greater. Why would a giant alien, strong enough to crush him with one hand, choose instead to help? Ravi stood with his back against the cracked wall, eyes fixed on the giant alien. The creature moved with slow precision, crystal device in hand. Each time it pressed the glowing stone against the surface of a damaged panel, sparks danced and the air hummed with strange energy. Some panels responded with a faint flicker of light. Others remained dead. The alien made no sound except the steady rhythm of its breathing. Ravi's fear had softened into curiosity, but his nerves still held tight. He had never felt so small in his life. Every step the alien took made the floor tremble, and the sight of its towering body filled the room with an energy that Ravi could hardly explain. He wanted to run, but something deeper kept him rooted. The dormitory chamber was nearly destroyed, yet in the alien's presence it felt less like a tomb and more like a workshop. Broken wires sparked, walls shook from distant impacts, but the creature worked calmly. It was focused, patient, and deliberate. Ravi's voice came out rough but steady. "Are you fixing this place?" The alien did not speak. Instead, it stopped for a moment, looked at him with those glowing blue eyes, then turned back to the wall. Its forearms moved with surprising grace. One held the crystal, another steadied the wall, while the other two adjusted broken wires with claws that seemed delicate despite their size. The silence stretched again. Ravi hated it. He had grown used to voices on the station, the chatter of fellow technicians, the calls from the command deck. Now there was only the hum of the crystal and his own shallow breathing. "I don't understand you," he whispered. This time the alien responded in a small way. It turned toward him, raised one hand and tapped its chest twice with a heavy fist. Then it pointed upward again, toward the ceiling. Its blue eyes stayed locked on him as if to ask whether he understood. Ravi hesitated. He repeated the action with his own fist, tapping his chest once, then pointing to the ceiling. "Me. Ravi. Stars." The alien gave no clear sign that it understood, but its eyes softened, and for a moment Ravi thought he saw a flicker of recognition. Then the creature returned to its task. Ravi lowered himself to the floor, sitting on a piece of bent metal. He watched quietly, his mind working through possibilities. The alien was not here to kill him, that much was clear. But what did it want? Was it trying to send a signal home? Was it looking for something hidden in the station? The idea of signals made Ravi's thoughts snap into focus. He was a technician. He knew how systems worked, how messages were sent across space. If the alien wanted to communicate, maybe it had chosen him because he could help. He glanced around for a working console. Most were broken, their screens shattered, their circuits fried. But near the far corner of the room, one emergency panel flickered faint green. Slowly, Ravi crawled toward it, keeping his movements calm so he would not alarm the alien. The creature watched him but did not interfere. When Ravi reached the console, he wiped soot from the screen and tapped a few keys. The panel responded sluggishly, but enough to show basic station functions. Oxygen levels were dangerously low. Power reserves were weak. The hull integrity was marked as compromised in multiple sections. No wonder he had woken up half dizzy and struggling for air. As Ravi studied the screen, the alien approached. Its shadow fell across him, huge and dark. Ravi froze, then glanced upward. The alien crouched beside him, tilting its head toward the console. Its crystal glowed brighter, as if reacting to the screen. "See this?" Ravi said, pointing at the oxygen warning. "Low air, bad." He tapped the word and coughed for effect. The alien looked at him, then at the screen. With one hand it pressed the crystal to the console's side. For a moment the numbers shifted, showing a slight rise in oxygen levels. Then the glow faded and the numbers froze. The alien pulled the crystal back. Ravi stared, stunned. The creature's device was able to feed power directly into human systems, even if only for a short burst. It was saving the station piece by piece. You're helping, Ravi whispered, awe filling his voice. The alien gave no answer, but once more it tapped its chest and pointed upward. Ravi pressed his palm to his chest. Ravi, he said again, slow and clear. Then he pointed upward and said, stars, sky, outside. The alien lowered its hand but gave a single nod-like motion. It was not perfect communication, but it was something. The two of them remained by the console for a long while. Ravi tried to adjust the system, rerouting what little power remained. The alien stood nearby, crystal humming softly. It seemed to sense when a circuit needed energy and when it was hopeless. They worked in silence, man and alien side by side, both caught in a fragile dance of survival. But Ravi could not shake the feeling that the alien's motives went beyond simply fixing the station. Every time it pointed upward, there was a weight in its gesture. It was not random. It wanted him to understand something important, something about the stars or the space beyond the station. As he sat staring at the console, a low tremor shook the walls. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere above, metal screamed under stress. Ravi's heart jumped. He knew the sound of strain against the hull. Something was pressing on the station from outside. He looked at the alien. It had already risen to its full height, eyes glowing brighter than before. Its body tensed, ready, as if it had sensed the danger before him. Another tremor followed, stronger this time. The emergency console blared a weak alarm. Ravi read the flashing text. Hull breach detected on the outer deck. Panic flared in his chest, but before he could run, the alien stepped toward the door. It pressed its massive claws against the bent frame, forcing it wider with sheer strength. Metal groaned, sparks flew, and at last the way was open. The alien turned back to him, raising one arm and motioning for him to follow. Ravi hesitated. Fear told him to stay, to hide, but instinct told him the alien was not leading him into danger. It was leading him away from it. He stood shakily, legs trembling, and moved toward the door. The alien waited until he was close, then stepped into the corridor ahead of him, its massive form filling the narrow passage. The corridor was worse than the dormitory. Lights flickered and died, walls bore scorch marks, and the air was colder. Ravi hugged himself, shivering as he followed the giant figure. Each step the alien took echoed like a drumbeat. Ahead, the sound of distant impacts grew louder. Ravi's fear deepened, but when he looked at the alien, he saw calm determination. Whatever the creature's motive was, it clearly had no intention of leaving him behind. For the first time since he had opened his eyes, Ravi felt a fragile thread of trust forming between himself and the towering stranger. And though he still did not understand the chest tap or the pointing toward the stars, he sensed that the silent message carried a warning about something coming closer, something that was not the alien itself. The corridor stretched ahead of Ravi like the spine of a wounded beast. Every wall bore scars of impact, black burns where fire had licked the metal, deep cracks where the hull had bent under pressure. The faint light strips on the ceiling flickered weakly, casting broken shadows. Each step the alien took shook dust from the ceiling, and each sound of Ravi's boots echoed hollowly. The further they walked, the stronger the tremors became. The station moaned as if alive, protesting against something unseen outside. Ravi's throat tightened. He had lived on this station for 3 years, and he knew the sounds of stress, pressure, and collapse. What he heard now was different. This was not just damage from an accident. It was an attack. At the far end of the corridor, a blast door stood half open, its motor dead. The alien placed its massive hands on the edges, claws digging into the grooves, and pulled. Metal screeched. Sparks showered the ground. With one final wrench, the door gave way, slamming into the wall with a crash. Ravi stared in awe at the strength before him. The alien glanced back, blue eyes glowing, and then gestured for Ravi to step through. The command deck lay beyond, a wide chamber with a long, cracked window that looked out into space. Consoles stood broken or smoking. Loose wires dangled from the ceiling. Chairs lay overturned as if their occupants had fled in panic. Ravi's gaze rose to the window. For a heartbeat, his mind refused to believe what his eyes showed him. Dark shapes swarmed outside the station, moving with insect-like precision. They were not like the silver-skinned alien beside him. These were jagged, sharp, and hostile. Their bodies glowed faint red, their limbs like claws of metal. Dozens, maybe hundreds of them surrounded the station, moving in unison, tapping and drilling at the hull like predators trying to pierce a shell. Ravi's breath caught in his throat. He stumbled back, grabbing the edge of a console for balance. His voice came out shaky. They're attacking us. The alien stepped to the window, towering above Ravi. It raised its crystal, and for a moment the device projected a faint hologram into the air. The image showed the swarm more clearly, spiked drones, all identical, advancing in waves. A line traced across the hologram, pointing toward the station's core. The message was clear even without words. The drones were not here by accident. They were coming for the heart of the station. Ravi shook his head, trying to clear the fog of fear. So that's what you were warning me about. Not you. Them. The alien turned, meeting his gaze. Slowly it tapped its chest again, then pointed outward through the window. Ravi understood. This being was not his enemy. It was his shield. Another tremor shook the deck. A console toppled, crashing loudly. Ravi flinched, then glanced at the alien. The creature's posture was firm, steady, unshaken. It stepped forward and placed one massive hand on Ravi's shoulder. The weight was heavy but strangely comforting. It was telling him without words to stand strong. A sudden alarm wailed weakly from the nearest console. Ravi hurried over, wiping soot from the screen. The words flashed red. Hull breach detected. Outer deck compromised. Drone entry imminent. They're inside, Ravi whispered. The alien growled low, a sound that rumbled like thunder. It turned toward the door they had entered through, as if ready to meet the intruders head-on. But Ravi's mind raced. If the drones broke through fully, fighting them one by one would be impossible. The station's defenses were weak, but maybe, just maybe, they could still be used. He glanced at the defense cannon system. Its controls were fried, power nearly gone, but parts of the system remained alive. With some rerouting, it could fire again. Wait, Ravi said, looking at the alien. He pointed at the cannon system on the console, then mimed aiming and shooting. Weapon, help! The alien tilted its head, studying him. Then it crouched, pressed the crystal to the console, and suddenly the system came alive. Lights blinked green, circuits hummed, and the cannon's status bar climbed from dead to half power. Ravi's heart leapt. He scrambled over the console, fingers flying across keys, bypassing locks, forcing old circuits to respond. The station shook again as another section was breached. He heard the distant screech of metal claws cutting through airlocks, but he kept his focus on the console. Behind him, the alien took position near the shattered door, crystal glowing brighter. Its forearms flexed, claws ready. Blue eyes burned with determination. Ravi stole a glance at it. He realized then that this giant had probably been fighting the swarm long before reaching him. The burn marks on its body, the shallow wounds across its arms, the wear on its armor. They were scars of battle. It had already faced the drones, and now it stood ready to face them again. The thought filled Ravi with a strange pride. If a being from across the stars could fight for survival against impossible odds, then so could he. The console beeped. Cannon ready. Power at 45%. Ravi smiled despite the fear. That'll have to do. He pulled the controls, and outside one of the large station cannons groaned to life. Its barrel lit up, charging, then fired a beam of energy straight into the swarm. The blast cut through several drones at once, sending their broken pieces spinning into the void. The alien gave a low sound, almost approving, before turning back toward the hall. Heavy footsteps echoed closer. The first drones had broken through. Metal claws scraped against the floor. A jagged form stepped into view, eyes glowing red, limbs twitching like blades. Another followed, then another. They moved fast, crawling along walls and ceiling, their sharp bodies clattering. Ravi's blood ran cold, but the alien wasted no time. With a roar that shook the chamber, it charged. One arm swung wide, smashing a drone into pieces against the wall. Another arm stabbed forward with claws ripping through metal. The drones shrieked, sparks flying as they fought back, but the alien's strength was overwhelming. Ravi turned back to the console, firing the cannon again and again. Each blast cleared chunks of the swarm outside, buying precious time. The station trembled, alarms wailed, but the cannon roared on. For the first time since the disaster began, Ravi felt they had a chance. Not because the station was strong, not because the weapons were powerful, but because he was not alone. Man and alien, side by side, were holding the line, but deep inside, Ravi knew this was only the beginning. The swarm was vast, endless, and they would not stop until the station was destroyed. As he fired again, sweat dripping down his face, Ravi glanced once more at the towering figure battling the intruders. The alien's crystal glowed like a star in the darkness, its movements swift and fierce, and in that moment, Ravi understood something simple but powerful. The true threat was not the alien he had feared when he first woke. The true threat was the swarm outside. And the alien had not come as an enemy. It had come as an ally. The command deck shook again as another drone slammed into the hull from outside. Sparks rained down from a torn section of the ceiling. Ravi ducked low, shielding his head while the alien fought fiercely near the broken doorway. Its forearms moved in a blur. One hand gripped a drone by its sharp leg and hurled it against the wall with crushing force. Another arm slashed downward, tearing through metal like paper. The drones shrieked with grinding voices, but they kept coming. Ravi felt his heart hammering in his chest as he fired the defense cannon again. Through the cracked window, a beam of energy cut across the swarm outside, scattering 3 more drones into debris. But the weapon's power was falling fast. Each shot drained what little energy remained in the station's systems. "Power's dropping," Ravi muttered, his fingers dancing over the keys. His hands trembled, but he forced himself to focus. "We need more time." The alien slammed a clawed fist into another drone, then turned toward him. Its glowing blue eyes locked on the failing cannon system. Without hesitation, it pressed the crystal into the console again. Power surged, numbers climbing, and the cannon hummed with life once more. Ravi's mouth fell open. "You can boost it directly. That's how you've been saving everything." The alien gave no answer, but its steady presence told Ravi enough. This being was willing to pour its strength into keeping the station alive, even if it meant exhausting itself. As another drone crawled through the doorway, Ravi reached for a fallen pipe. He swung clumsily, striking the drone's leg. The impact barely slowed it, but it was enough for the alien to strike, tearing it apart with one clean motion. Ravi stumbled back, breathing hard. He was not a soldier, not trained for battle, but he would not stand useless. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Ravi wiped sweat from his brow, the heat from burning wires stinging his skin. He looked at the alien, who stood tall, crystal still glowing faintly. Its body bore new dents and scratches, signs of the fight. One wound along its side leaked a dark fluid that looked nothing like blood. The sight made Ravi's stomach twist. Without thinking, he grabbed a small medical kit from the wall. The alien watched him cautiously as he approached. Ravi raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "Let me help," he said softly. He opened the kit and pulled out a sealant patch. Gently, he pressed it against the wound. The alien flinched but did not strike him away. Ravi secured the patch and stepped back, heart racing. The alien lowered its head, almost as if nodding. Then it made a sound, low, deep, like a distant drum. Ravi felt the vibration in his chest. It was not words, but it carried meaning. Gratitude. A strange warmth filled Ravi. For the first time, he felt not just fear or survival, but a bond. 2 beings from different worlds fighting together, helping each other. The console beeped urgently, snapping him back. Ravi turned to see the cannon's power bar dropping again. The swarm outside was endless. He fired another shot, clearing a cluster, but more replaced them instantly. "This won't hold forever," Ravi said, his voice tight. "We need a new plan." The alien stepped forward and projected another hologram from its crystal. The image showed the core of the station, glowing bright at the center with the swarm converging toward it. Then the hologram shifted, showing the energy shield system tied to the core. Ravi's eyes widened. "The shield generator. It's still online?" The alien tapped its chest once, then pointed at Ravi. "You want me to activate it?" Ravi said. The alien nodded. Ravi's hands flew across the console. He dug deep into the systems, rerouting damaged circuits, forcing broken relays to respond. He knew the risks. The shield would drain the last of their power reserves. If it failed, they would be defenseless. But without it, the swarm would tear the station apart in minutes. "All right," he said through gritted teeth. "Let's try it." The alien pressed the crystal against the panel, sending another surge of energy through the system. Ravi slammed the final key. The station groaned, lights flashing bright for a moment before steadying. Outside, a wave of energy burst from the core, expanding across the station like a dome of light. The swarm struck against it, claws sparking as they scraped against the glowing barrier. For the first time, the station stood shielded. Ravi let out a breath he had been holding. It worked. The alien gave another low sound, this one more like a growl of determination. But Ravi could see the strain in its body. Its glow had dimmed, its movement slower. The crystal pulsed weakly, as if its energy was nearly spent. "You're running out of power," Ravi said quietly. "We both are." Still, the alien stood tall, ready to fight if the shield fell. Ravi knew they needed more than defense. They needed to strike back. He searched the console for any remaining systems, scanning every option. At last he saw it, a forgotten conduit running beneath the old engineering deck. It was a backup line abandoned years ago, but it could carry power directly to the shield, amplifying its strength. He pointed to the map on the console. "There, we need to reroute through this conduit. It's risky, but it might hold." The alien leaned closer, studying the glowing lines. Then it turned toward the corridor, motioning for Ravi to follow. Together they left the command deck. The station groaned around them, shield shimmering outside as drones crashed against it. Sparks fell, metal creaked, but the barrier held way, for now. The path to engineering was long and dangerous. They moved through collapsed corridors, past smoking panels, through doors the alien forced open with its massive arms. Twice they heard drones crawling nearby, their claws scratching along the walls, but the alien stood guard, shielding Ravi until the danger passed. When they reached the engineering deck, Ravi dropped to his knees beside the old conduit. Dust covered the panel, its screen dead, but the cables inside were intact. He pulled tools from a broken locker and set to work. The alien crouched beside him, pressing its crystal against the junction. A soft hum filled the room as energy flowed. Ravi spliced wires, connected circuits, and forced the ancient system to awaken. His fingers burned from sparks. Sweat dripped into his eyes, but he kept going. At last, the conduit lit up. Power surged through, flowing toward the shield generator. Ravi almost collapsed with relief. "It's working. The shield will hold longer now." The alien placed one massive hand on his shoulder again, steady and firm. Its eyes glowed brighter as if acknowledging his effort. For the first time, Ravi smiled. Not a nervous smile, not a weak smile, but a real one. "We're a good team." The alien gave another deep sound, softer this time, almost like agreement. In that moment, surrounded by broken metal and faint light, Ravi understood. They were no longer just two survivors trapped by chance. They were partners, bound by necessity but also by something deeper: trust. The station still shook. The swarm still hammered outside, but inside the engineering deck, a new hope had begun to grow, an unlikely alliance. Ravi stood at the defense cannon, his breath fast and heavy. The air inside the research station felt hot and tense as the swarm of drones drew closer. The giant alien beside him held the glowing crystal, its silver body moving with purpose even though it carried wounds from earlier fights. Both of them understood that this moment was the final stand. Either they fought together with all they had, or the station would fall to the endless machines. The outer hull of the station shuddered as the first of the drones slammed into it. The sharp sound of claws scraping against metal filled the air, and Ravi gripped the cannon tightly. The screen in front of him showed red markers flashing one after another, each representing an enemy making its way inside. The alien's tall frame leaned forward, placing the crystal into the control socket of the core. Energy surged through the deck and the walls hummed with a strange new light. A barrier of shimmering energy spread around the station. For a moment, Ravi felt relief as the shield glowed bright and the first wave of drones bounced off, breaking apart into fragments. But that relief did not last. The swarm outside was vast and more pressed forward, slamming against the shield, pushing harder and harder. The protective field began to flicker under the stress. Ravi saw cracks of light in the dome-like shield, signs that it could not hold forever. The alien gave a low sound, its eyes glowing brighter as if urging Ravi to act quickly. Ravi nodded even though he did not fully understand. He turned the cannon toward the hull breaches and fired. Bright blasts of energy shot out, striking the nearest drones and tearing them apart. Each successful hit filled Ravi with a rush of determination. He realized he was no longer only defending himself. He was fighting for the station, for survival, and for the strange ally who had chosen to stand beside him. The battle grew more intense. The drones forced open a small section of the shield and swarmed through in a flood of metallic bodies. Ravi shouted as he adjusted the cannon and fired again and again, cutting through their ranks. Sparks filled the deck as broken pieces of drones scattered across the floor. The alien charged forward with a sudden burst of speed, its large arms striking the machines with raw strength. Each strike sent 2 or 3 drones crashing against the walls. Together they created a rhythm, Ravi firing blasts while the alien cleared out the survivors that got too close. But the swarm was endless. Every time they destroyed 10-20 more pressed forward. The shield grew weaker by the second. The hum of the station's power cord dropped to a lower tone, and the alien turned quickly to Ravi, pointing at the console with urgency. Ravi understood at once that the shield needed more energy, and if they could not give it, the defense would collapse. His mind raced. He remembered the old training manuals he had studied when he first joined the research fleet. One passage spoke of a forgotten conduit, a backup line buried deep within the station's core systems. It had been left unused because it was unstable and dangerous, but right now danger was better than certain destruction. Ravi leaped toward the console, his hands moving across the switches and wires. He tore open a panel and began rerouting the power lines manually. The alien watched closely, guarding him from the drones that kept crawling in. It swung its long arms in powerful arcs, crushing any machine that dared approach. The floor shook under the weight of the fight, and sparks from broken circuits filled the air like falling stars. Ravi's hands bled slightly as he forced wires together, creating a new path for the energy to flow. With a loud crack, the system responded. The lights across the deck brightened, and the shield outside suddenly grew stronger. A roar of energy filled the entire station. The shimmering barrier blazed brighter than before, expanding outward with renewed force. The drones outside were caught in the sudden surge. One by one, they were torn apart in the wave of light. Ravi shielded his eyes from the glare, but he could hear the distant metallic screams as the machines fell to pieces in space. The few that had entered the station also froze, their limbs twitching before collapsing lifeless to the ground. Silence followed. Only the hum of the shield remained, steady and strong now that the new conduit fed it. Ravi dropped to his knees, exhausted but alive. His chest rose and fell quickly as he looked around the deck filled with broken drones. The alien stood tall, its glowing eyes fixed on the shield that still surrounded the station. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then slowly, the alien turned toward Ravi. It tapped its chest with one hand, then bowed slightly. The gesture was calm, full of respect and gratitude. Ravi stared at the enormous being, feeling the weight of the moment. In the beginning, he had feared it, thinking it was an enemy. But now he understood. This alien had come not to harm, but to fight alongside him. Without its strength, the drones would have torn him apart long before. And without his quick human thinking, the shield would have failed. Their survival was not one-sided. It was the result of two very different lives coming together at the right moment. Ravi stood again, his hands trembling slightly as he tapped his own chest in return. The alien gave a low, deep sound that echoed warmly through the deck. Then it picked up its crystal from the console and walked toward the outer hatch. Ravi followed slowly, confused but curious. The alien opened the hatch with its massive hand, and for a second the stars filled the room with cold beauty. Without fear, the alien stepped into the void of space, its body glowing faintly as it drifted outward. Within seconds it was gone, disappearing into the endless sky. Ravi stood at the open hatch, watching until he could no longer see it. The quiet of space stretched in every direction, and he felt both small and powerful at the same time. He knew he would never see that alien again, but the memory of their fight would stay with him forever. It was not just survival. It was proof that even in the vast unknown, humanity had something to offer. Human adaptability, creativity, and courage had turned an impossible situation into victory. He closed the hatch and leaned against the wall, finally allowing himself to breathe in peace. Around him, the station was damaged, broken in many places, but still standing. The swarm was gone. The shield held steady. He was alive, and he was no longer afraid of what was out there in the dark. Instead, he felt a new sense of hope. Somewhere among the stars were beings who could look at a human not as prey or as prey, but as a partner. That thought gave him strength. Ravi whispered softly to himself, his voice steady now. He knew this was only the beginning of something greater. If humanity could survive this day, then it could survive much more. The stars were waiting, and humans would not face them with fear anymore. They would face them with courage, with open hands, and with the memory that even in the cold silence of space, humanity had proven itself worthy.